My voice was not audible. How about now? So all that rambling for nothing, huh? We cannot hear you. How about now? I think you can now. I don't know what is going on. I unclicked mute, but it didn't want to unmute. So I'm going to pretend that you do hear me. No, you still don't hear me? We'll see. We'll give it a second. Sometimes it takes a second to catch up. So, okay. So let me just kind of restart everything. So I said, good morning. I know it's not morning everywhere, but it's morning for me. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Let me know how the audio is. I know my voice is on here now, but I also have some background music, so I don't know if that's coming through. Still getting used to the levels of the audio on here. Yeah, so if my voice doesn't sound great, it's because I was sick last week. Still not feeling great. But as they say, the show must go on. I've got a busy day today. We're going to do this stream. I have some prep for spring office hours. I'm hosting a Golden Path to Spring 1 event. That will be streamed on VMware Tanzu's YouTube channel. Also, if you follow me on Twitter at @TheRealDanVega, you can go ahead. I put out a tweet yesterday with a link to that. So go check that out. But that is with my friend Matt Rabel. We're going to be talking about building microservices in Spring Boot with Jay Hipster. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Matt always does a great job presenting, so I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, so today I just want to get back into it. We started to get some good traction last week on this channel with some streams, and then I got sick. And the family got sick first, and then I got sick. And oh man, when you have little kids in school, they just seem to bring home every germ on the planet, and I think that's what's happening. So, fun times. Cool. I got a lot of people are joining me here. This is great to see. Simon, thanks for coming back. Hello, Dan. Great timing. I was just tinkering a bit with Spring Shell myself. That's great to hear. Kunal, hello, Dan. Hello, how are you? Already a question in advance, since I'm still a bit on the fence myself. What is more user-friendly, like to go into your ChatGPT equivalent? I'm not sure what you mean by user-friendly. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit? Hello, thanks for joining me. Oh, if you were to allow a user to input a question, we could go for A, shell option, ask them to wrap it in quotes. B, go for arity and concat the array ourselves. Read line or other. I think in my ChatGPT example, I used a argument, right? Like a shell option. So yeah, so I write WTF GPT space, and then whatever they type in, I want to pass that in. And ask them to wrap it in quotes. Yeah, that was the gotcha. I think that we'll look at that again today. I remember going, oh man, I have to wrap it in quotes or it's not going to work. So maybe we'll look at that again today and see if we can't figure out what's going on. Thomas, hello. Thanks for joining me. Arman, hi there. Hello. Thanks for joining me. Cool. All right. So I think what we'll do, let's go ahead and start this off with, let me move this back over here. Let me know how you're doing out there. Let me know if you have any questions. We can always stop and ask some questions about whatever we have on our mind today. Doesn't need to be Spring Shell related. I've been doing a lot with Well, I guess I'll start with that. Let's head over to the Twitters. I know you can't see this yet, but I'm just getting set up here. That was indeed a gotcha. I noticed that myself since I was playing with OpenAI myself, and I got some odd replies. By default, if unwrapped, it just uses the first word, right? Yeah, we could always look for that, right? Like, if the first character is not that quote, we can assume they didn't wrap it in quotes, and we could always do that ourselves. But yeah, let's see if we can get into that. Raghavan, hope I said that correctly. Hey Dan, hey, how are you? Hope you're having a good one. Hello Dan Vega, nice to see you in a live session. How are you doing? I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. How are you doing? I'm doing okay. Well, I'm doing great in spirit. In health, I'm still a little sick, but I'm trying to just get through it because I have a lot to do this week, so I don't know how many live sessions I'll be able to get to. So I figured while I have some time this morning, let's get to it. So let's see if we can do this. Oh, Spencer from the last time. It's weird that comes up. Okay, so I'm over on Twitter. I figured we'd just talk about a couple things. Java 20's right around the corner. This is really exciting. Not sure if you realize that, but our friends at Oracle have an in-person or online launch. We're part of Oracle's new free Dev Live. So if you want to learn more about that, go check that out. Here's the link I was talking about with my friend Matt Rabel. We are doing a session where we talk about reactive microservices with Spring Boot and JHipster. I used to be a big user of JHipster, not so much anymore. Not because, a fantastic product. I just don't use it much these days. So I'm interested to sit down with Matt and hear about that. I posed this out. I keep getting... I feel like a lot of people just want to automatically... I need to change a setting real quick. Hold on. Sorry if you're seeing this, but I need to see if it will let me do this. We'll see what changes. But I feel like a lot of people just kind of throw things out and say, you should learn this or you should learn that without actually telling me why. So I kind of posed this the other day. People keep telling me that I need to learn Kotlin. I'm not against it. I don't know about you, but I have this list in, so I use Notion for everything. I have this list in Notion of things that I want to learn. And there's a priority list, things I need to learn for my job. These are things that I need to keep up on. And then things that I'm just curious to play with because I'm curious about it. Like Rust. So I've been playing with Rust lately because I'm just curious about it. And I like learning new things. But that list of things that I would like to learn is so long that I'm not going to get to everything. So I do have to prioritize stuff. So sure, I would like to learn Kotlin one day, but I also need a reason to learn it. Because I already know another JVM, I use Groovy here and there. I've taught a course on Groovy. So I feel like if I want to dip into another language on the JVM, I have Groovy. Why do I need to learn another one? And so I posed this out yesterday and said, hey, any Spring developers who are using Kotlin on a daily basis and want to tell me why I should be doing that, let me know. So I'm going to pose that to you as well. If you are a big Kotlin user and you have some good reasons for me to take a look at it, let me know. Anas, hi Dan, hope you're doing well. Thank you, my friend. I'm doing I'm doing good. Good in spirit. Hopefully I'll get healthier this week. Pad is every time I come up and get on a live stream, Pad is here. So thank you, Pad. I appreciate that. I believe Simon is and Thomas is too. So I got some regulars. I like that. I get to like hang out with friends while I'm on a live stream. This is good. What else did I want to talk about? Oh, so this is what I wanted to talk about real quick, and then we'll get into Spring Shell stuff. So I put this tweet out yesterday. You can see we're at like 40,000 views, 400 likes, 40 retweets, 41. They said, did you know that you can use the builder pattern in Java records? So this wasn't the greatest example. I probably should have thought it through a little bit more. But when I put things out there, you never like this. I guess this is a lesson. You never know like what things you just kind of throw out there on a limb gain traction. So I didn't know this tweet was gonna get 40,000 views. So maybe I would have thought it through a little bit better. But my only point was that hey, if you're using records, you could still use the builder pattern within them, and you can go look up the builder pattern and kind of dig through the like why it exists and what it's used for. Again, not the greatest example here in my developer record, but in a class, if you had things that were required, so if in this case, again, bad example. Let's say ID, first name, last name, email were required, but like skills and a bunch of other things were not required. They were optional. Instead of creating the constructor for all the required args and then constructors for every other possible scenario with all of these different optional parameters, that gets to tend to be a little bit messy and not really fun to construct a new object. So the builder pattern is all about constructing new objects. And so this is a really good way to solve that problem. And you get this nice like syntax where you can say like, hey, developer.builder, and then chain all of the parameters that you want to, again, thinking that these are optional parameters. And then at the end of the day, you build it, and then what you get out of it is now an immutable object. So this can be done in a record class, and this is a lot of boilerplate, but you can generate it from the IDE. So I just thought I'd throw that out there. Brian Getz, who's the Java language architect at Oracle, he knows everything. He was quick to point out that this is only useful if the default values for the builder fields are actually valid, but null seems pretty bad ideas for name and email, which I agree. You really want to, I think, a builder of this form really only useful when most of the parameters are optional, which agree. And so I ended up pointing out like maybe if we use another one like this, where hey, like I have this run and I have to record how long my run was, when I started it, when I completed it, but all these other things are kind of optional, like what shoes were I wearing, was it sunny out, where did I run, did anybody run with me, was it an indoor run, did I run on the beach, did I have some music on, was it play, all these things are optional. So in this case, a builder pattern might be useful there. So, interested in your feedback on that. I'll probably put together a tutorial on that pretty soon. So if you're over on Twitter, go ahead and leave me a comment on that. I'm a big Kotlin user. The Elvis operator, the collection functions, extension functions, etc. Okay? I will note that and take a look at the docs. Maybe we'll even... Yeah, I'll put some out on Twitter. Maybe even... I have so many ideas for these live streams that we can do. Maybe we can learn Kotlin together, and maybe some of you guys can teach me. That might be fun. You shared an interesting bit and received feedback better than a silent echo chamber. Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And like, yeah, I mean, this is all about learning for you, for me. That's what I'm doing every day. I'm just trying to learn. So yeah, I throw stuff out there and we'll all learn from it. Currently implementing some Cucumber tests at work, but I have some time to learn Spring Shell. All right. Worst case, you get smacked by Brian and useful feedback. Yeah, exactly. Keep it more open, transparent. I'm not sure what the conversation is there. We can come back to that. Okay, so that's what's going on in the Twitter world. Let's talk about Spring Shell. So the last time that we were together, we took a look at an introduction to Spring Shell, like how to get up and going with it. If you haven't had a chance, you can go back and watch that live stream. There's a replay version of it on my channel. And we just looked at the documentation, so you can come over here and look at the reference docs and kind of take a look at what Spring Shell is, how to get started. I believe we have, yeah. So we started a project that was more like just a getting started project. We have, we started with this hello command. This is like the basic example. Let's turn down the volume of music. Okay, good to know. I hear the volume of music is a little bit loud. That's good to know. All right, I hope that's a little bit better on the music. We have this basic hello command. So the way that we define commands is we start with this at shell component annotation. This at the end of the day is annotate with at component. This is how it's kind of picked up by Spring. And then you pass it a value, which is kind of the logical name for this component. No. All right, hopefully that's a little bit better. So we have a shell method. So this is the method that is going to be executed when this command is run. So we have a hello method. It takes an option. We'll talk about that in a second. And then returns hello and whatever that option is. There's a default value for that option, which is world. So these commands will come up when we run our application. We can type help and we can get a list of commands that are available. So we started with this one and then we moved to a post command. And this post command has a little bit more things going on. I fixed this post construct. It wasn't working last time, but I added a post construct to this. So basically this works because, again, this is a component. So we have a private void init. We're just going to load some posts. This posts is working because we are using our JSON placeholder service, which calls out and loads some posts. This JSON placeholder service, by the way, is a interface. So in Spring Framework 6, we have these HTTP declarative interfaces where you just kind of declare your intentions here. Like I would like to make a GET exchange to /posts. It's going to return a list of posts. And we will turn this into an implementation at runtime. So at runtime, we load all the posts from the JSON placeholder service. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with placeholder. JSON placeholder. And if you go in here and get a list of posts, you'll get 100 posts with user ID, title, and body. And so that's why we modeled ourselves around that, having an ID, a user ID, a title, and a body. So we have our record here. So once this component loads, we have all of the posts in here. I have a single shell method in here to list posts. We have a value that says list all of the posts in a collection. So list posts, and it just returns posts. So let's run this application and see if this is working how we expect it to work. So when this loads, this is a shell. So again, I need to respond to it. I haven't had a chance yet. But there was a post on Reddit the other day that said, like, what can I use Spring for, like, other than building web applications? And a bunch of people chimed in and said, like, well, hey, you could you could build batch applications, and you could do like event-driven architecture, like. And so the user was like, oh, so web application. So I think he was being a little bit vague with his idea of a web application. So, like, is it, a web application could be just like, hey, I'm building a REST API, or I'm building a traditional web, server-side web application. So yes, there are a lot of things that Spring can do. And I hope that this is another one that is like opening your eyes up to something else Spring can do. We can stay in the Spring world of things and know all the things that we know about building Spring apps, but we can do it here on the command line. So when we're on the shell here, we can type help, and we get these available commands. So these are the built-in commands. So I just typed help, display all the available commands, and it groups them into those different commands. So we had the hello commands and we had the post commands. So any of the classes that have the shell component on it, that is grouping those into different commands. So if I had like 5 commands in here for hello, there would be 5 commands underneath hello. And underneath post, I have 1 command, so it shows 1. So you can see on this one, I added the value. So the value is the description. This is important because if somebody types help, now you can see the post command list posts. This lists all the posts in the collection. So at least you're helping the user out there with the description of what this command is going to do. So if I type this wrong and I just say list posts, it's going to say no command found. But if we go ahead and say list posts, we have a whole bunch of stuff going on in here. I just saw Netty got started. Are you pulling in web or... Let's take a look. Netty started on this error is something that comes up on Macs. I have a fix for it that you can plug into like your Palm. It's really annoying, but it doesn't do anything. Netty started on port 8080. So I'm pulling in Webflux because I'm using the declarative interfaces. So if I wasn't doing that, then I wouldn't have pulled this in. But I need that to go call out to the web and pull down those posts. So that's why that started. So let's come back to here. So list posts lists all of the posts. So it has the ID, user ID, title. So the title's long, and then the body is all of this. All right. And then there's 2, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. So that's kind of our intro. I want to do one more thing in this app before we go to another one. I'm going to build we'll see how far we get today. I want to build like a dad joke generator. So like if I'm on the command line, I can call it to the API and just get like a dad joke to cheer me up. So we'll see if we can get to that. But I want to look at one more thing today, and that is, right now we're just kind of dumping all these results into the console. It doesn't look very friendly. And so how can we kind of alleviate that? Like, what can we do better there? I want to go through here. I am not, again, I'm pretty new to Spring Shell, so I've been using it for maybe a month and only on a couple projects. So I'm definitely not an expert on this. I'm kind of learning with you guys. And I don't know my way around the documentation yet. So you can do some completion, building, components, customization. I'm looking for the technical. I'm looking for the table stuff because I've used the tables in my YouTube CLI. So we'll get to that eventually too. I built a YouTube CLI for me personally to basically go out and get a list of videos that I've been working on and just get some stats about them. I think we've lost out on our music. It just helps me kind of, let's see if we could find something else. I like some Omar. Let's see what he's got. Yeah, so that YouTube CLI, that's where I ended up using these tables. So I needed a way to display information in a nice table in the console in a shell, but that's not something I want to build by myself. That doesn't sound like real fun. So if we look at the APIs, there's some information. I thought there was some info in the shell docs, but apparently there is not. Let's see, table. No, table builder. I think that's what I want. So a builder class to incrementally configure a table. Oh, I did want a table. So let's see what a table is. This is a central API for table rendering. A table object is constructed with a given table model, right? Which holds the raw table contents. It renders logic and then is altered by applying various customizations in a fashion that's very similar to what you used in, say, a spreadsheet program. So those things are like formatter, size constraint, text wrapping, alignment, etc. So let's look at doing something like that here. So I know in my CLI program, I did this in a couple places. Then I extracted it out to like its own little service to like not have to repeat myself. So we'll repeat ourselves first and then we'll kind of come back to it. So the first thing that we need, so if you have a table builder, let's call this table builder is equal to a new table builder. This needs a table model, right? So construct a table with a given model. The table will use the following strategies for the cells. Default formatting using toString, sizing strategy. Try to use the maximum space, resorting to splitting lines on spaces. It'll wrap text, left align. Cool. I mean, those are sensible defaults, so I like that. So we need a table model. And then we have a couple different table models. We have an array table model, a bean list table model. So I believe this is the one I used. And you basically need something like that. So yeah, so I think this is array table. I think that's what I used, right? Model. No, array table model. So now you need an object. So we're gonna have to like finagle. We're gonna have to turn that information that we have from post into something that this table model can use. Right. So let me say post. Let me turn that into a stream. We probably want to map that. So we get a post. We want to map that into a new string, right? So what do we want here? We want the ID. We want the user ID. And we want the title. Let's just start that. I don't want the description there just yet. Because, where are we? Yeah, because it's just long. So can I not to array yet? Sorry, just trying to look at the comments too. Required was, right. This is odd. I wonder what's going on here. There we go. I knew I was missing something. So then I can just say, should be able to do something like that, right? So let me see. Array table model. Model equals new array table model. So this needs to take in object. And if that's the case, to do that, we are taking our list of posts, turning them into a stream. For each one, we're going to map the post into a new string array with the ID, the user ID, and the title. And this is a string array, so it's expecting strings. So when we have an ID and a user ID, we just turn them into a string. I think that'll work. Maybe not the greatest, but now let's see if we could pass this model into here. Okay. And then on the table builder, you can set some things, right? So if we go into table builder and structure, you can see that you can add things like, hey, I want to add a border or paint the border or add a header border or header and vertical borders. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff in here. So add an inner border. So I'm going to let's just mess with this, see what this looks like. I think I did an inner border and that border. So that takes a border style. Yes, I think this is one of those things that we'll have to like just mess around with to see what you like. I think this is one thing I wish had a little bit more information in the documentation, because again, I had to, I think I remember this now. I had to hunt through the API docs, not the reference docs. So there wasn't a ton of information in the reference docs about this. So I'm going to go back and look, though. I might have been missing something. Okay, so now that we have that, we have this table builder. So I think now what we'll do with this, instead of returning something, right? So I'm not going to return anything now, because now what I can do is call, let's just say system out table builder dot build. And I know there's some things we can do after this, but let's just see how this looks first. So let's try this again. So let's say list posts. Oh. What did I mess up? Did I not? Oh, because we're not rendering. Try that. So this just builds the table builder. The render method must render it out. There we go. So yeah, so you can see all of them here. And again, that render, that I passed was like, how long should this be? Or how wide? So this is the ID, the user ID, and the title. So let's look at render. What does that actually do? Public string render, int, total available width. I wonder why you have to pass that. Isn't that something that could be calculated? Let's just try 80. And I also don't love this double dash. Let's try a different border. Fancy light. All right, so let's go ahead and run this again. That's a little better. But again, this is I have to mess with this. I really need to like figure out all the different things that I can do with this. Like table builder dot add header and vertical borders. Let's try that. Border style fancy heavy. Here, let's get this. I'm gonna restart. Ooh. Yeah, I think one of the tasks I'm gonna take up is to dig back through the docs and see if I'm missing something. Or if this is an opportunity where I could make a contribution. I love writing documentation, so I think from a developer standpoint, when I look at the, oh, let's go back. Maybe I didn't spend enough time looking at this. What I want to know is like if I'm looking at these different options. So what were we messing with here? We were messing with the, all right, you want to minimize the table builder. So the table builder. So the table builder has these things. So add header and vertical borders. These are these border styles. A border style that uses space characters given some space between columns. I guess this is a pretty good description. I don't know. It might be nice to have like in the docs section where we're talking about building these tables, like some visual like cues. Like if you use these options, this is what it's going to end up looking like. So again, I'll spend some time going back through here and see if I'm just missing something. I just don't know if I saw anything about the table stuff in here. Because I know that was one of my first questions. I couldn't find it here. And somehow I was just digging around the API docs. And then I was like, oh, cool. there are these table things because I was actually going to build one for myself, and I'm thankful that I did not have to do that. Okay, so that is something I'm going to take up. Do you have any questions about what we've done so far? Because I might start a new project and work on this dad joke. Let me just look through here. Manish, love from India. Love from over here in cold and snowy and rainy Cleveland, Ohio. Thank you for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. Do you have a plan for a new Java or Spring Boot project for YouTube? I don't know what you mean by project, but I'm usually posting videos to YouTube every week. Last week, well, it was not the exception. I did a couple live stream last week. I didn't do like an actual produced video last week. So I guess it really depends on what your definition of posting to YouTube is, because I do shorts, I do live streams, I do like regular tutorial videos. So I'm always trying to push content onto YouTube. But the last one I did was a 4-hour video. So I was hoping that would hold you guys over for a little bit, because that one was really hard to make. You know, it takes me about, no lie, 4 to 8 hours to make a 10 to 15 minute video. And if you've never heard that before and you're blown away, I agree. It's kind of crazy. But you need to come up with the idea for the video. You need to do some research around it. Like, is this something people are looking for? You know, you don't always have to do that, but if you want to like grow on YouTube, those are things that you can do. Then once you figure that out, okay, I got to figure out a title and a description and what people are going to be looking for. Then I have to build out the demo code. Like, what are we going to do in this demo? Then I have to, okay, we need to record it. And recordings, you know, I try to batch these out whenever I can, but recording's like a thing, right? Like, you got to get camera ready to like be on camera and present, because I always start the video with like a talking head like this where you can see me, and then I go into like a tutorial. Then once you're done, gotta edit it all down. Editing is an art on which you need to really get better at. I'm trying to get better at. You know, things like audio and color correction and any kind of supporting audio like sounds or music or whatever. You got to export it. You got to upload it to YouTube. This rendering takes forever. You got to fill in all this metadata. It is a process. So yes, I'm not trying to scare you away from YouTube, but these small videos take 48 hours. So you can imagine what this 4-hour video took me. But to answer your question, yes, I'm always going to be building more stuff for YouTube. I'm using these live streams as like a here's what I'm like working on next for videos. So one of the next like put together tutorials you'll see on YouTube is around Spring Shell, like an introduction to Spring Shell. So I'm doing this because I'm learning this, and I want to know what questions you guys have about the things that I'm trying to learn and teach. So as we go through this Spring Shell stuff together, I'm taking notes on like what questions you might have, what questions I came across, like with this table stuff. And just, you know, on top of my head, I have like two to four videos already on Spring Shell that I could put out. And I'm not going to do that all together, but I have some ideas around Spring Shell that we could talk about. We can do the introduction. We could build the dad joke command line application. We could talk about some of this table stuff, and then the YouTube CLI application that I built. We can go through that because that's a little bit more complex. So I'll be doing that. Let me see. Let's see if I can. Let me take this off screen. I just don't want to make sure I don't show anything I can't show. So let me just close that and then put this back over here. So yes, I'm always working on new things. Here are some of the things that are in my next up. So Spring Shell introduction, that's right there. JPQL has functional. There's some new functions for JPQL. So like if you want to extract like a year from a date. Spring Security Complete tutorial, though this one is going to be a little bit down. Spring Authorization Server, OAuth2. The YouTube CLI is going along with the Spring Shell, GraphQL 1.1. So these are like things that are almost ready to go. I just need to like clean them up. And then I have, as you can see, things with no status and ideas. Like I have just a ton of stuff in the backlog. On top of that, I am also working on a follow-up course. Sorry, I just want to make sure that I don't show anything I shouldn't, because I have some work stuff in here now, and I probably should separate that out. So I'm also working on a follow-up to that Spring Crash course, which is going to be Learn Spring Boot in 30 days. This is not going to be for YouTube. This is going to be a paid course. It's similar to that crash course that's 4 hours. It's a little more structured, a little more in-depth in certain places, but it also adds security and testing in there. And it puts it all in a nice 30-day format. So if this is something you're interested in, danvega.dev/courses/spring30, go ahead, give me your email address. I'll tell you when I make some progress on that. Hopefully soon. I was hoping to make progress on it last week, and the virus hit us all. It took down our family. Not the virus, but a virus. So, that's my answer for yes. I will have something on YouTube this week. Love your videos, up to date and practical. Thank you, James. I appreciate that. Everything you produce is useful for us. You are a senior in this job. I appreciate that. Thank you, Pad. Okay. Dad jokes. Who doesn't love a good dad joke? I want to build a dad joke CLI, but I don't have my own set of dad jokes yet. I need to, maybe we could start our own little database, but for now, we're going to get some from here, which I really love. In order to get an API key for dadjokes.io, you need to create an account though. That's okay. That's not a big idea. So we can go ahead and get a random joke by just calling this random joke endpoint. And you'll get a return, what type it is. The setup is, what do you call a fashionable lawn statue with excellent sense of rhythm? Punchline is a metronome. I like it. So what I want to do is I want to be on the terminal. So I want to be on the command line. So if I'm on the command line, you know, in wherever I'm there from, and I type in like DJ or dad joke, you know, we could start with something like random, right? So dad joke, random, and then I would get the random joke back. So that's a really good start. There are other things we could do with this. We could get a joke by a particular type. We could search for jokes. We could even get random joke pings. I don't know how useful that will be in a command line, but this will be fun. So we can improve on this later, but I think just getting a random joke will be a good start. So I think the first thing we need to do is be able to do this without our CLI. So we need to create a Rapid API account, then subscribe to dad jokes. I've never done this. I don't have an account here, so I may have to pull this off screen. And if you want to do the same, go over to dadjokes.io, go to getting started, and see if you can't get a API key. So sign up for a key. Oh, I have to sign up. That would help. I'm signing up with GitHub. I'm just being careful about this because I don't know the workflow of this. And so I don't want an API key to just kind of pop out of there. So, oh, all right. So I already have one. So copy Rapid API hosts. So now, yeah, I guess it really doesn't matter because I would have probably. All right, so let's go. So let's try this. So HTTP. Oh. All right, that's good. All right, so we're unauthorized. We need to provide a key. That's good. Invalid API key. How does it say that we need to send an API key? An API key is required. I just don't know. Maybe I'm missing something here, but an API key is okay, but if I send a GET, I'm guessing you want it in a header. Unauthorized content type. Usually it would say how you would want this. Let's see what this says. There we go. That's what I was looking for. To connect to an API, project, or application, you must have an API key to authenticate your request. That's what I was looking for. So just Rapid API key, huh? All right, so I guess you're gonna see this, which I don't care. I will just remove this key afterwards. So what does it say? Rapid API key, right? All right, let's see if this works. I am not subscribed to this API. Okay. Well, shoot. This is not being fun now. Maybe we could find another one that doesn't require us to have an API key. You must register to get a valid key. Yeah, I did register, but this doesn't seem... Let's see if we can just find a random one that doesn't have... Oh, I know. I think I've used this one before. Let's try this. I gotta set content type. You know, sure. There we go. That's one that does not have a API key. What's the difference between an African elephant and an Indian elephant? About 5,000 miles. Got it. I like it. All right, let's roll with that so we don't have to have an API key. So, ICANN has dad joke. I like it. I have used this one before. I should have asked the professor of all dad jokes, Ken Cousin, what he used. I believe he used this one before. So I'll have to reach out to Ken and go, what is your favorite dad joke API? Okay, so we can use something like that, and that will work. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna close this one. Let's do that one and do a new project. And dad joke CLI. And we're gonna create a new Java project. We're gonna use Maven. I'm gonna say dev dot. What the heck? That was weird. Okay, we're going to use Java 17 because at the end of the day, what I do want to do is turn this into a native image so that I can just randomly, run this straight from the command line. Like if I'm in a shell somewhere, I can just run this. So I'll turn this into a native image. I did this for the WTF GPT video that I did. So we're going to do something similar here with that. So what do I need? I'm going to... Well, we're going to need shell, and then I think we'll leave it at that for now. All right. Let's go back to, while this is loading, I'm going to go back to this, fetch a random dad joke. So this is random. This endpoint is give me a random one. Fetch a random dad joke is a Slack message. That's awesome. Fetch a dad joke with the ID. So fetch a dad joke as an image. Search for. So yeah, maybe we can do some more stuff with this later. Oh, nice. It has a GraphQL endpoint as well. So yeah, I think right now all we'll do is we don't even need a shell option for this, right? Or yeah, let's just say random for now. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, let's go ahead and create a new Java class, and we'll just call this dad joke commands. And I'm going to put this in commands. All right. And so this will be a shell component. And then we need a method to return a random dad joke. So this is going to return something, but hold on one second. So public void. Okay. So we're going to do something with that. So first we need a shell method. So the key is how do we get it? So we're just going to use random. And then the value, again, is that description that tells the user what this particular method is going to do. So we'll say fetch a random dad joke from the API. Okay. Okay, so that's the start. let's come back here. And I think the first thing we need to do is we need to model a response after this. So we have an ID, we have a joke, and we have a status. So let's just say that this is a dad joke response. So let's go ahead and say new Java class. We'll call this in model dot dad joke response, and we'll have this as a record. Again, this looks like so this will be a string ID, string joke, and integer status, right? So now we have something to model off the response. So we are going to get a dad joke response back from this, right? We won't need any kind of argument to this. We will, once we want to fetch a joke by a particular ID. I wonder what the use case for this is. Like, I have all these jokes. Where am I? Like, if I save the joke, why would I just save the ID? Like, I would just save the whole joke. I guess if you like wanted to favorite a joke, you could say, "Oh, that one is great. Go ahead and like save that ID." And then you could use that ID to call out to the service again and get that actual joke. But I think if I was like persisting this somewhere, I would just save the joke. But I'm not sure what the use case for that would be yet. But that is where we would need like an option to pass into our program. So let's just keep it as this for now. That seems a bit of a spoiler. Yeah. But for right now, it'll be okay because we can. Yeah. Simon says, I'd expect most people just to copy and paste the joke itself. Right. Yeah. I don't know. I have to think about a reason of why you would want to do that. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to make a call to this. Let's come back up here. So this is a get call to this. Right? Right. So yeah, so you could do this a couple different ways. Again, we looked at, it's just too silent for me. I'm liking this music, but these are too short. I need to find some like longer playlists. I have some, these are my favorite tracks. I don't even know what these are, but sure. So yeah, so we could do a couple different things here. Simon mentioned earlier we could just use the HTTP client in Java. In this particular case, that seems fairly simple. We don't need to bring in an external dependency for that, so I'm all for that. if this got a little bit more extensive and we had like a bunch of things we were doing and a bunch of endpoints we were hitting, yeah, I'd probably use like the HTTP interfaces in Spring 6. But I think for this is okay. So maybe we can just say HTTP builder, HTTP client is equal to oh wow, you know what? I have not used this in a long time. Let's do this. This is where I always come back and look at this is the great thing about having a GitHub repository where you just do a bunch of demos. Because I always like kind of remember like, oh yeah, I did a tutorial on that. I can come back and look at that. It's been a while since I've used this. So you create a new client, then you create a builder, then you send the response, and then you can use the object mapper. We don't need to do that here. So let's just do this. So create a new client, use the HTTP request to create a new builder. This is a GET call. We don't care. Yeah, actually, we do care about this. We want to accept the application JSON back. What is the URI that we're calling? Build that. Give me a response back. HTTP response, send. It's going to throw a couple things. So then we get the response back. And yeah, I probably can then just say return response dot get body. Where's the body in there? You can see I've been in the Spring world for a long time here. I have not used this in a minute. This is just going to return a string, not a... Let me just see what this returns. So let's start there. If that does just return the JSON string, then yes, we'll have to map that. So let's see if this works. So what we're going to do is when we load this application up, we have one command. This is because of the shell component. We have a shell method. We're going to fetch a random dad joke. When this gets called, I'm going to use the HTTP client to make a call. So I create a new HTTP client. The client sends a request, so we need to construct a request. Request is, hey, I'm calling, this is a GET request, here's the header, here's the URI, build that, boom. The type is of string. Okay, so this is body handler, right, so this can be an HTTP response body handler of type. Hi, Dan. I have a problem with Spring Security. Will you stream office hours today so I can ask it there? Yes. 3:30 Eastern over on, I'll be here on this, it'll be on this channel as well as VMware Tanzus. So, yes. Check out springofficehours.io. Also, check out my Twitter. I'll go ahead and tweet something out as we get closer to that today. But yes, Be happy to answer that. HTTP response body handler of type T, and that's the return. That's the handler. So, I don't. Again, this is me. If you don't use it, you lose it. I have not used this in a while. I don't remember if I can turn that. If I can just say, "Hey, here's the request." What I expect back is actually a dad joke response. I don't think it's gonna do that, right? Like that's what Jackson's for. So yeah, we'll probably have to do that ourselves. Let's try and run this and see if we can do anything with this. All right, so help random. Cool. What do birds give out on Halloween? Tweets. I like it. Okay. So here's where the conundrum is now, right? If in this instance, yeah, I guess in this instance I didn't do that. I was going to say if I bring in the web stuff to bring in Jackson, then I might as well just use the HTTP interfaces, right? But if I just bring in Jackson, then I guess it's not a huge deal. Wow, I was using Java 13 back then. Oh, and of course I'm using Gradle. I totally didn't even see that, but no big deal. Sometimes IntelliJ is really good at this. I'm going to see if it works. Look at that. I pasted in XML, and IntelliJ said, well, you're not in XML. You're in a Groovy file. I'm going to paste in a Groovy code or a string. I love how it just does that. So let's refresh this. I'm not a Gradle user either, so I hope I don't mess anything up here. It does say... Let's see. So I think what I can do now is say... There we go. Nope, because I'm gonna have to create a new one. Yeah, so this is where like the idea of using an HTTP client is a great idea until you realize that like, all right, well, I get all this other stuff for free when I just pull in something. Right? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to get I'm going to actually return so let's just say that we did this and we needed this elsewhere. So private final object mapper. So I know that I am violating my own rule here. Don't ever use a new keyword. We should create a bean. So let's do that. configuration. All right, let's try this again. No creators, like default constructor exists, cannot deserialize string. Cannot construct instance of dad joke response. No creators, like default construct exist, cannot deserialize from object, no delegate, or property based creator. I've seen this before. I believe there's an annotation for this, right? Not constructor binding, that's not what I'm thinking of. What am I missing here? I wasn't using records then. Well, great IDE, but I don't have a license, so Eclipse it is for me. Default constructor. Right, so a record doesn't have a default constructor, right? It has a constructor of this. So I don't know why it doesn't like that. Weird though. I've done that before with records, so we'll figure that out in a second. So there it is. So yeah, this is just something with Jackson. This is how Jackson works. It's going to read this value. It's calling the default constructor on that. Yeah, there's a way to tell this how to work. I can't remember off the top of my head. So I'll figure that out and I will let you know. And I think I will let you know in the next one because that's all the time I have for today. I've got a meeting with my boss in 4 minutes and I could skip that and blame it on you guys, but probably not a great idea. Oh wait, I didn't read this one yet. What did the drummer name her twin daughters? Anna 1, Anna 2. I like that. But you can see now, at least we're getting back an object. So we have this dad joke response that has the ID, joke, and status. Again, I think the idea of using just an HTTP client here is a good one, but this is kind of why I default back to the Spring way of things. If I would have just brought in Webflux, I have an instance of an object mapper wired up for me. I have HTTP interfaces. I can just create an interface. I don't have to like write all this implementation code to make a call to a service to just get some JSON back, right? So this is a fun little experiment, but I think we'll turn this in. I think we'll turn this into back to like HTTP interfaces. Pet5 says, just add a new constructor in your record. That would work, but again, remember, records are immutable. So once you create an instance of it, you can't like change it later on. So we'll see. Maybe we can give that a shot. But yeah, I think what we'll do, we'll come back. Probably not today. We'll do it tomorrow. I'll try to get better at scheduling these things so you guys have an idea of when they're going to be. We'll come back and we'll fix this. I'm going to clean this up a little bit tomorrow in the code in the live stream. And then what we'll do is we will build a native image of this. And if you haven't had a chance to check out my GraalVM video for Java, go ahead and check that out. That'll talk through some of the things that we're probably going to come across. When you're building a native image and you're doing anything that is part of the dynamic language features of Java, and yes, there are dynamic language features, like reflection. Jackson uses reflection underneath the hood. There's some things you have to do to make this work. So we'll go through those. So this will be fun. We'll turn this into a native image. We'll talk about how we can like create an alias to it once it's built. So then anytime you're on a command line, you're in a shell somewhere, and you need a dad joke, you can just hit like DJ or dad joke and get one of these awesome random dad jokes and cheer you up from the command line. So cool. So that's what we'll do. Thank you for the experiment, though. It's something I've been on the fence about with myself with my own shell project. It has its pros and cons. Yeah, I mean, like everything, pros and cons. But cool. We will figure this out. We'll have some fun doing it. And I think then once we get through that next live stream, we'll kind of wrap up this Spring Shell stuff for now. So if you have any questions, go ahead and bring them to the next one. We'll see if we can't figure this out together. And then I'll get a Spring Shell introduction out on YouTube, hopefully tomorrow or Thursday. And yeah, like I said, my hope is to get better at planning these live streams. I've been kind of just doing these when I can on a limb, but we'll get better at planning these. So thank you, friends. I have to get to this meeting with my boss. So I appreciate you showing up. We will come back tomorrow. Today, 2 o'clock Eastern, the Golden Path to Spring 1. Join me and Matt Rabel. It's going to be awesome. Then at 3:30, Spring Office Hours, me and Deshaun, you know what we're going to do there. We're going to answer your questions. We're going to talk about upgrading to Spring Boot 3. So check that out. I will see you guys tomorrow, unless you come to one of those shows today. If not, I will see you on here tomorrow. Thank you for showing up and hanging out with me. You always cheer me up. You always help me get through these long days, these cold Cleveland days. I appreciate you hanging out with me. As always, friends, happy coding.